Welcome to at MADISEL Coach and MADISEL TV's Words Fitly Spoken podcast. Hello there, I'm Coach Sandra, and I'm the host of Words Fitly Spoken podcast. Words Fitly Spoken are words spoken at the right time for your encouragement and enrichment. On this podcast, we will deal with emotional and mental wellness by talking about the conflicts we have in our everyday relationships, whether at home, work, school, and the community. Stop in to hear some helpful words that create awareness about your emotional health. All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for being here today. We are excited because we have our first guest. Welcome, Maddie.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It is wonderful to have you. So I am going to ask you to go ahead and just say your name and talk about how we're connected.
All right. So my name is Maddie Boyd. I am a student at UNF, and I am interning for MADISEL. I started in January, and it's been a great ride so far. And I'm so excited to finally get on this podcast and get to talking with Sandra.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, thank you so much. You are definitely a great find. I am so excited to have you on the MADISEL team. And like I said here at the podcast for MADISEL Coach, you are our first guest. And so we are going to just take on a couple of topics, and we're going to see how this goes. And what's neat about having Maddie join us today, which is, really encouraging to me, is having a college student, a young adult, being able to talk about and share her perspective of how these things happen in life and what affects her and her age group,
right,
in the times we're living in. And for many who know me, I do a lot of work with teenagers and their parents, and Maddie is not too far removed from that particular area of living. So a lot of the conversations that you and I already have deal with the family dynamic and what it's like being a daughter, and what you've learned from your parents and what you've tried to also encourage them in and teach them in, because I believe that the young person is a teacher in the home just as well as the parents are a teacher in the home.
Yes, that's so true.
Yeah. Excellent. So since I said that, we were not going to start there, but I'm going to go ahead and do what I do. Let's start there.
Okay.
What is something that you remember about your own personal journey that you feel you ended up having to teach your parents about you? Is there anything that you can recall, in those teen years? And it can even be now,
right,
that you're learning how to teach them and how to share some things about yourself that, because sometimes what happens with our parents is they think they know us.
Yes.
But it really requires them listening to really know us,
yeah,
right? And watching,
absolutely.
like using your ears and your ears, your eyes, and, interacting with the relationship to really know someone, right?
Yeah, I can definitely speak on that. I think something that I really liked teaching my mom specifically was that we have a completely different perspective on our lives. And that's something that is kind of hard to accept as a parent, I think, because you as a parent have this completely different outlook than your child had. And so when my mom remembers this certain event that happened in her life, maybe something that was hard for her or something that she went through, I'm remembering that event in a completely different way, and and you shouldn't judge each other. That's something that we also had to learn. I can't judge her for seeing the things that she saw at that time, and she can't judge me for how I perceived it as well.
Oh, that's excellent. That is excellent. So in another podcast, I talked about an aspect of what you just brought up, how we will get into this thing of that our experiences are identical.
Yes.
They've never been identical. We experience things differently.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm learning, as a lover of emotional and mental health, is how our emotions, though we have identical emotions, they do not line up or level up at the same place.
Yes.
And the one that is so unique, what I like to call the squeaky wheel,
Right.
anger. So I feel like this situation happens in our relationships where, so let's just say for you and I,
Mm-hmm.
and it could have been you and your mom, it could be you and siblings, you and dad, anyone. But so they're mad about something, right? And then you happen to be there with them, and you see that thing and you're like, wow, I'm not really that upset about that.
Mm-hmm.
We as humans will get mad at someone and say, why are you not mad at what I'm mad at?
Yes.
So I'm going to get more mad at you for not being mad at what I'm mad at.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that really is a little bit unbalanced,
Right.
a lot. It doesn't really make sense. It's not good for us, right? And yet we hold on to it like it's, this cloak or it's oxygen.
Yes.
Right? We don't want to let go of these things where it's like, I don't need to be mad at you because you're not mad at what I'm mad at.
Right.
The way I experience the situation is different from your experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to honor that.
Yeah.
And instead, I'm spending energy and causing more conflict, right, in our relationship just because you didn't agree with me.
Right.
Because really that's what it comes down to, right?
Because we all want to be right.
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
We just,
It's human.
It is. It's so human. And like, I want no one to stop being human.
Right.
Right? But all of us have to recognize if I'm doing something that is not really helping my relationship, more than likely I'm hurting it.
Yes. And that's the really hard part, is being self-aware enough to recognize that, because sometimes you're so caught up in the midst of being angry or the situation that we as the struggling individuals are in, that we can't realize I'm doing more hurt than help. And
That's
it's
good.
hard because we're hurting. So we're just expending all this energy trying to make ourselves feel better. And we're not realizing we're just creating more and more and more damage.
That's good. That is really good. So thank you. Because what we just did, we started a topic and we rolled off into another topic.
Yeah.
And I love that. So thank you for joining me in that type of MADISEL stuff. So thanks. I love how the interaction, what you talked about when we go back to you and mom, and you had that connection with, you had to, help her to see you the way you really need to be seen, right?
Absolutely.
And that's important in every relationship that we have. So one of the other topics, I'm going to jump right into one of our other things that we wanted to cover today, and understanding that what MADISEL tries to put out is not just what's helping us in the moment, but what helps others who are going to be listening, no matter when they're listening to a podcast or watching this podcast, but it can be helpful to them for whatever they're experiencing. And so the topic I want to grab a hold of right now is the topic of common sense.
Right.
Common sense. So here's what I did. I went and I wanted to look up the definition, right? Because we all have our idea of what common sense is. And so let me just back up a little bit and say I was in a conversation with some people. I was sharing with them how I think as an older generation that I'm a part of now, we need to make sure we stop saying certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
so specifically, I think my generation and anyone close into my age range and older, we've got to stop saying about young people that, you guys have no common sense.
Yes.
We'll say it about our peers as well. Well, they have no common sense, right? And so what I did is I was sharing with that group, and I said, hey, you know, I really think it's not a good thing. It's not a healthy thing. It's really a bad word. It's a bad phrase because it's condescending.
Absolutely.
It's extremely judgmental. And so in just doing a little bit more research, looking at what common means, dictionary.com says it this way: belonging equally to or shared alike by two or more or all in question. Some examples are common property, common interest, right? So equally belonging to. Another definition is pertaining or belonging equally to an entire community, nation, or culture. An example is a common language, common history, a common water supply system.
Right.
Now, so I then have this question of, is common sense really common? So tell me, Maddie, being in your early 20s, am I right?
Yes.
Early 20s. So tell us, hey, is common sense really common?
I think that second definition really brought it into perspective. Like, it could be a common language for 100 people, but then the common language for a different 100 people is a completely different language. And so what we really need to realize is that everybody's common is different. My common is completely different from yours because A, we are not the same age. We didn't grow up in the same place, and we just have had completely different experiences throughout our entire lives. And you obviously have a lot more experience. But as you have mentioned so many times in our relationship, that doesn't mean that we can't still learn from each other. Yeah, and absolutely. We kind of ran into that today when we were talking about Instagram. And so obviously, as a younger generation person, Instagram is more my forte. And so we were talking about making a post, and I said, oh, the caption. And you said, is that what it's called? And for me, in my generation, a caption is common sense. But for you, it wasn't completely common sense. And I could have judged you for that, but
absolutely,
I obviously didn't. And
thank you.
No, of course. But that's what we have to realize, is that we could judge someone for not knowing something so simple, but that's not in your era. I mean, Instagram is a completely new thing that hasn't been around since you were 10, 12 years old. I mean,
right. Brand new. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm absolutely a novice. Yeah. I have no problem saying, hey, you know what? Social media, I see you. I'm learning how to use you, but I need a young person to school me.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm here for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, and I love it because I was looking at you like, do you not understand what I'm saying?
Right.
I want to know about the post. What about and you had gave me the example of like, oh, you mean the paragraph? The place where, yeah, that thing. Isn't that what am I not saying it? And you're like, it's a caption.
Right.
And I was like, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that's what your younger generation is going to call something. And, you know, in that, we just really begin to connect on that fact of, wow, my common is not your common.
Absolutely.
So for the older generation, right? Let's go ahead and school all of us on this. For the older generation to be coming at a younger generation, because a younger generation doesn't say to us, you guys should have common sense. No, you guys don't even use that term, right? No. It's the older generation.
Yeah.
We are coming at you guys and saying this, and really, we're interesting about how we say it, when we say it. We're usually in a group of our peers, and we say it in a very condescending way, right? To say, look at them, man. They have no idea. I guess there's just no more common sense.
Right.
Really? One of the things that Maddie, we were just having a casual conversation about this, but one of the things that stopped me in my tracks that she shared with me earlier about coming, first of all, let me just say, I'm a Floridian. Now, I was born in Chicago, so I'm going to go ahead and give credit where credit is due.
Absolutely.
Okay. Cook County, thank you. Chicago. All right. So I was born in Chicago, but I was raised in Jacksonville. So I'm going to go ahead and recognize my city and my county, Duval. Thank you. Very good. That's good. You're home. That's very good now. But Maddie originated from another state and a small town. And so tell them the state you're from and your town.
Okay, I am from California, and the town that I'm from is specifically Portola, and it is a very small town. The population is around 2,500, and we are tucked away in the mountains of California. It's very northern. It's actually right on the border of Nevada and California, so right by Reno.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So when we were talking and you were just sharing about the common sense thing, and it was just like, that wasn't common where I'm from.
Exactly.
So here you are, in a lot of ways, there's a deficit, right? And that's not a bad word.
Yeah.
So you just didn't have exposure to certain things.
Yes.
And then to come here to this geographically super large city.
Yes.
And there's stuff, everywhere. And you're meeting people from a lot of different places as well that you wouldn't normally have experienced in your small town in California.
Yes.
Right? Because we hear California, we immediately think big state.
Yeah, LA.
LA.
Yeah.
Everything is, glitter and Hollywood.
Right.
And we're thinking all of that. And you're like, no, not anywhere near me.
Absolutely not even close to what I experienced as a child and when I go home from college.
Right. Because it's still snowing there right now in March, right? At the end of March.
Last night, yeah.
So, shout out to the parents.
Yeah.
We see you guys, but we don't want to be there.
No, we're good in Florida. We're good in here.
We are good with our weather. It's beautiful outside today.
It is.
And so, again, that was so, I'm lost for words here on that one, but that one, it was like, it wasn't that it was shocking, but it was sobering. That's the word I wanted to use. It was sobering because it was the idea of, look at how we're doing things in our relationships. It's just not healthy.
Yeah.
Like, it just screamed at me even more. We have to stop as an older generation using the phrase common sense. These young people don't have common sense. What's common to me is not common to my neighbor.
Yeah.
If I am truly honest, it is not common to the person sitting right next to me. And really what we're communicating is, because you don't do it my way, you're the problem.
Yes. And that's not right, and it's not fair to the other person, because we go through so many different experiences, and we have different experiences throughout life that shape our common sense. So say you grew up, driving in a city, which you did. You grew up driving in Jacksonville, but I grew up in a tiny town where there was no freeway. So I had very little experience on the freeway up until, late high school, early college years.
Right.
And for you, getting on the freeway is probably, quote unquote, common sense. But for me, it wasn't. And so there's just little things throughout our lives that we make judgments on for other people when really it's no one's fault, or it's no one's, it's not for us to judge, because that's just their life. It's not something that they lacked.
That's right.
Or something that we are better than them for. It's just completely different experiences.
That's right. And your experience is your story.
Mm-hmm.
And your story is beautiful.
Yes.
Right? Because you're the star of it. You're the main character of your story.
Yeah.
Right? I'm the main character in my story.
Mm-hmm.
My story brought me from Chicago to Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to some different places, and there's still places I want to see in my own country and abroad,
Yeah.
right? To add more chapters to my story.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. So it's not about having a common story, right? It's about learning how to be in life,
Yeah.
who you're supposed to be in life, but honoring someone else's differences
Yeah.
and not putting them on the spot because they don't think the way you think.
Mm-hmm.
They don't look the way you look. They don't react to what you react to. All of that is okay.
Yeah.
Because what we have in common, the key thing is we're human.
Right.
And if we would just take time to be common there, I start realizing, man, I don't have the right to judge you.
Yeah.
Who am I? I'm not better than you. I'm not less than you. I'm not greater than you. I'm not less than you. I'm equal to you. So your valid story is beautiful. My valid story is beautiful.
Absolutely. I love that.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. That's great. Just dealing with the topic again of common. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We want to share this great information with a multiple of people, and you get to help us with that. And we totally appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next time.